Hello and welcome to Jessie Bear Book Club, the only book club where we don't always talk about books, but today we are. We are talking about Gai-Jin by James Clavell, written in 1993. This book takes place about 20 years after the events of Taipan and chronicles the adventures of Malcolm Strone, the son of Callum and Tess Strone in Japan. The story delves deeply into the political situation in Japan and the hostility that Westerners faced. It's such a big book, this is going to be more of a character study than a plot review. So, spoilers ahead. But my favourite bit of this entire book, before we get into any detail about characters, was when everyone on the shore thinks that Tess Strone has arrived. It was marvellous, because then the twist was, it was actually Jamie's fiancé. I loved it so much. Let's start this review by talking about Malcolm Strone. During the first quarter of this book, Malcolm Strone is badly injured. It was hard to get a read on his character while he was recovering, but I immediately realised that he is spoilt rotten. When Malcolm doesn't have the strength to give up his opium addiction at night to help him sleep, and when Angelique, his fiancée, won't immediately sexually satisfy him, he realises he can't love her. He is just a spoilt kid, and he really is, because he's only in his early 20s. Malcolm is fighting pain at every turn from his injuries, and slowly developing an addiction to opium. It is very well written. It starts off as a little just to help him sleep, and then morphs into a complete 24/7 habit where he has to shoot up constantly or he starts feeling opium sick. I think it's striking how immature Malcolm is when compared to Angelique, his fiancée, who, in my opinion, has been dealt a much harder hand in life. The way Malcolm refuses to see that his mother just wants the best for him is very childish. When Edward Gaunt turns up on the scene, I immediately felt like Malcolm was walking straight into Gaunt's trap, whatever that trap was. Malcolm should have done some sort of background check on Gaunt, and it's very obvious Edward Gaunt is playing a cat and mouse game with Malcolm from the start. There is also the way Malcolm handles his marriage when it comes to the Admiral, and this whole situation really exposes how naive Malcolm still is and untried. Then, on his wedding night, Malcolm suffers a hemorrhage while on the job and dies from his injuries that he sustained at the beginning of the book. I was so surprised when Malcolm died because he is one of the main characters and there was over half a book left to read. I don't overly like Malcolm Strone. He is spoiled and entitled and very selfish, but he was an interesting character to read, so I was sad when he died. Our second character, and I would argue the main character, is Angelique Richard, beloved of Malcolm Strone, ward of the French minister. Angelique is a voluptuous yet penniless French girl. Angelique is intelligent but naive, she's still young, and has been dealt a very bad hand. She is raped early on in the book while she is drugged. And then she discovers that her father has spent all her inheritance, and her uncle is now in debtor's prison. When Angelique becomes pregnant from being raped, I really felt for her, especially when she needs to find money for an abortion. Her mind goes into overdrive trying to find a way to figure this out. She gets turned down at every opportunity to make money, but I did think it was really odd she never thought about selling jewellery. The fact that it has to be pointed out to her by Andre, I think was overdone to show her naivete. I do not think Angelique would be quite so naive in that regard. When her rapist, Ori, turns up for the second time to rape and kill her, the scene where she manipulates him was so well written. The fact she listened to that small inner voice, all her foremothers telling her how to survive, I loved it. And then she traps Ori and has him shot. I was like, oh my god, you go girl, right alongside that small inner voice in her head. It was brilliant. When Angelique goes through with the abortion, I really grew in respect for her. She is so mentally strong. I hope her secret never gets found out. When her husband, Malcolm Struan, dies on their wedding night, I really thought Angelique would break. There being so much blood and all her dreams being broken in front of her. And though she does shatter, she comes back stronger. Her mind still works in the same way, and just like after the rape, she makes a plan to cover every eventuality she can think of and starts waiting. She goes ahead with burying Malcolm at sea, like he would have wanted, and then the twist we find out at the end that it wasn't actually Malcolm's body was brilliant. The way Angelique plays out not being pregnant with Malcolm's child was perfect, and this scene where Tess Struan is coming to get her, but then it turns out not to be Tess Struan, was also really good. Super tense. I was so happy when Sir William Aylesbury chose to burn the letter that Andre left, telling the world about Angelique's rape and abortion. I somehow know that Angelique is going to marry Edward Gaunt, and that they will go head to head with the Struans and the Brocks, but I doubt Angelique will ever have a child, or the life she wants so badly back in Paris. Our third character is Toranaga Yoshi, the guardian of the air, and descendant of Toranaga from Clavell's earlier book, Shogun. A smart man who thinks he's more intelligent than he is, and this is highlighted to an extreme when we meet Toranaga Yoshi's wife, who outthinks him at every turn. When Toranaga makes a new alliance to obtain control of the gates, you see he is very well versed politically with court intrigue, but maybe not in practical matters. The attempted assassination of Toranaga Yoshi by Sumomo was a great scene to read, but the book ends slightly open-endedly. You know that Toranaga Yoshi is going to triumph at some point, but even his victory over the Shishi feels open-ended. You know Hiraga is going to be back at some point to take Toranaga Yoshi's head. The fourth character we're about to talk about is Hiraga, also known as Yukiya, Nakama, Otami, leader of the Chosu Shishi. He becomes Philip Tyrer's teacher of Japanese, where they're both trying to use each other as spies, and I love the back and forward between these two. But when Hiraga and Ori are spying on Philip Tyrer having sex with his favourite lady, it's kind of out of the blue. What political information can you obtain from finding out the size of Philip Tyrer's penis? But Hiraga is very intelligent and far-seeing. He understands that Ori, the rapist of Angelique, has to be dealt with because he is unstable and dangerous, and he also understands that to fight the Gai-Jin, one must understand the Gai-Jin. I really want to know what Hiraga thought of England, because when the book closes, that's where he's on his way to. Our fifth character is Philip Tyrer, diplomat and apprentice Japanese interpreter, and probably the most likable character in this whole book. When Philip starts working with Hiraga to learn Japanese, and they're both trying to use each other for information, I found that dynamic really enjoyable. Philip really starts growing as a person throughout this story, and I do not think he is as much of a coward as he thinks he is. When Philip Tyrer comes up with the idea to disguise Hiraga by covering him in bandages, it was very The Lady Vanishes. After the death of Malcolm Struan, I really wanted Angelique to fall in love with Philip, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. He's not rich enough for her. When the fire happens towards the end of the book, and there's the explosion that kills Philip's concubine, I felt really sad for him. He's such a nice guy, but I feel even though Philip and Hiraga were using each other, they're true friends. Our sixth character we are discussing is Ori Ryoma, Shishi leader of the Satsuma cell. He is obsessed with Angelique, and he is a creepy stalker 101. But he is oddly sympathetic because he's so pathetic. I can't quite put my finger on what it is about him that makes his character readable, but he definitely deserved to die, so I was glad when that happened. The final character we are discussing is Edward Gaunt. He is a sneaky, slimy guy, and I don't like him. I can't put my finger on what he really wants, but I know he was playing Malcolm Stern for a fool. I think Gaunt and Angelique are well matched because they are both schemers and planners, but whereas I really like Angelique because this is something she has developed out of necessity, I cannot stand Gaunt. Don't know why, just don't like him. I give this book 10 out of 10. I think it's better than Taipan because it doesn't have an over-the-top god character, which is infallible pretty much, and I think it's better than Shogun because it doesn't have chapter after chapter of boat talk. Undoubtedly, so far this is my favourite book in the series. I know I still have Noble House to read, but God, these are long books, and I'm trying to gear myself up to read Noble House. Until next time, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Let me know who your favourite character from Gai-Jin was. Until next time,